The diner smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams at 2 in the morning. I wiped down the counter for the third time, my reflection staring back at me from the scratched, chrome-dark circles under my eyes. Hair escaping from its bun, the exhaustion of pulling double shifts written across every line of my face. Outside, the city's worst neighborhood settled into its predatory quiet. The kind where smart people stayed inside and locked their doors. I should have been one of them. The crash shattered the silence like a gunshot. Metals screaming against concrete, the sharp pop of a streetlight exploding. Then nothing but the hiss of a dying engine and my heart thundering in my chest. Through the diner's greasy windows, I saw the black SUV wrapped around the light pole, smoke rising from its crumpled hood. Every instinct I'd developed working night shifts in this hellhole screamed at me to stay inside, call 911, let someone else handle it. But 2 years of nursing school had rewired something fundamental in me. I grabbed the first aid kit from behind the counter and ran. The driver's side door hung open, and I could smell gasoline mixing with something metallic. Blood. The man slumped against the steering wheel was conscious, barely with a gash above his left eyebrow streaming red down the side of his face. "Don't move," I said, my voice steadier than my hands as I climbed into the passenger seat. "You might have a concussion. Let me see. Get out." His voice was rough, authoritative, even in pain. "Now." I ignored him, already opening the kit and pulling out gauze. "You're bleeding. You need pressure on that wound or you'll pass out from blood loss." His head turned, and I found myself staring into the darkest eyes I'd ever seen. Even dazed, even injured, there was something predatory about him. Something that made my survival instincts scream louder than my nursing training. He was beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Sharp jawline, dark hair falling across his forehead, a face that belonged on magazine covers or wanted posters. The expensive suit, now torn and blood-stained, told me exactly which one was more likely. I said leave, but he didn't push me away when I pressed the gauze to his temple, didn't flinch when I used my free hand to check his pupils with my phone's flashlight. Pupils equal and reactive. That's good. I worked quickly, efficiently, the way my professors had drilled into us. "Can you tell me your name? Do you know what day it is?" A ghost of a smile crossed his lips, and it transformed his face into something even more dangerous. "You're very brave, or very stupid. Bella. I'm a nursing student who can't walk past someone bleeding. I secured the bandage with tape, my fingers grazing his skin. It was warm, feverish, and you're deflecting. Name and date, please." He caught my wrist, not hard, but immovably, and I felt the strength in that grip even through his injury. "Luca, it's Thursday, and you are Sophia." The name escaped before I could think better of it. Something shifted in his expression. Possession, maybe. Satisfaction. His thumb traced a circle on my pulse point, and I knew he could feel how my heart raced. "Sophia," he repeated, testing it like wine on his tongue. Then those dark eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that stole my breath. "You're mine now, Sophia." The words should have sounded insane. Instead, they sounded like a promise, like a threat, like fate. I opened my mouth to respond, to argue, to laugh, to do something other than stare at this stranger who'd just claimed me with 4 words, but headlights flooded the car. 3 black SUVs screeched to a stop, surrounding us, and suddenly there were men everywhere. Large men in dark suits with guns poorly concealed beneath expensive fabric. One yanked open Luca's door, his face a mask of professional concern and barely controlled panic. "Mr. Moretti, are you?" He stopped, his eyes landing on me. On my hand still pressed against Luca's temple. "On how close we were in the confined space, sir. Moretti." The name hit me like ice water. Everyone in this city knew that name. The family that owned everything that mattered and destroyed everything that didn't. The empire built on fear, blood, and power that made law enforcement look the other way. I'd just put my hands on the most dangerous man in the city. And he was still holding my wrist, still watching me with those dark eyes, still smiling that dangerous smile. "Get the car," Luca said quietly, never looking away from me. I'm taking Sophia home. I'm not going anywhere with you. I tried to pull my wrist free, but Luca's grip remained gentle and absolutely unyielding. Around us his men moved with military precision, one checking the wrecked SUV, another speaking rapidly into a phone, all of them pretending not to watch their boss refuse to release the terrified nursing student who'd wandered into his world. "You saved my life," Luca said, finally letting me go. He touched the bandage I'd applied, and I watched crimson seep through the white gauze. In my world, that creates a debt. I don't want anything from you. I scrambled out of the destroyed vehicle, my legs shaking. I was just helping someone who was hurt. That's all. He followed me out with fluid grace that shouldn't have been possible for someone who'd just crashed a car. Standing at his full height, he towered over me, all controlled power wrapped in a blood-stained designer suit that probably cost more than my tuition. Marcus. He didn't raise his voice, but one of the suited men appeared instantly at his elbow. "Bring the car around. I'm taking Miss ... double quotes." He paused, turning those dark eyes back to me. "I don't know your last name, Sophia. And you won't." I took a step back toward the diner's dubious safety. "Thank you for the offer, but I can get home on my own." "At 2:30 in the morning? In this neighborhood?" Something almost like concern flickered across his features. "I don't think so." A sleek black sedan glided to a stop beside us, pristine. Expensive, completely out of place on this broken street. Marcus held the back door open, waiting. "I'm not getting in that car," I said, but my voice wavered. The truth was, I was terrified of the 3-block walk to the bus stop. This area got worse after midnight, and I'd seen things that still kept me awake some nights. Luca stepped closer, and I caught his scent. Something dark and expensive, leather and cedarwood, completely at odds with the blood drying on his face. "You have 2 choices, Bella. Get in the car willingly, or I'll put you in it myself. Either way, you're not walking home alone at this hour. That's kidnapping. That's protection." His smile was slight, dangerous. "And you'll learn the difference." Every rational thought told me to run, to scream, to flag down a cop. Any would even come to this neighborhood. But there was something in his eyes that wasn't cruelty. It was certainty, absolute, unshakable certainty that he would keep me safe whether I wanted him to or not. I got in the car. The interior was exactly as luxurious as I'd expected, soft leather seats that probably cost more than my entire apartment. Ambient lighting that bathed everything in warm gold, and blessed silence as Marcus closed the door and sealed us in our own world. Luca slid in beside me, and suddenly the spacious back seat felt intimate, suffocating. "Your address," he said simply. "How do you know I'll tell you the truth?" "Because you're a terrible liar, Sophia. I could see it when you tried to hide how scared you were back there." He settled against the seat, watching me with that unnerving focus. "And because some part of you knows I'm not the danger you should be afraid of tonight." God help me, he was right. I gave Marcus my address, a 4th-floor walk-up in a building that should have been condemned years ago, and tried not to think about what this man would think when he saw how I lived. The drive was silent except for the soft purr of the engine. Luca made a phone call in rapid Italian, his voice low and commanding, and I caught only a few words. "Doctor, stitches. Tomorrow. You should go to the hospital," I said when he hung up. "That wound needs proper care. Dr. Russo will come to me." He pocketed his phone and pulled out another once sleek, new, still in its box. "For you, I have a phone. One that's 3 years old with a cracked screen." He opened the box with practiced ease. "This one is better. My number is already programmed in." I stared at the expensive device like it might explode. "I can't accept that. You already have." He pressed it into my hands, his fingers lingering over mine. "You'll need me before I need you, Sophia. But when you do call end, you will." "I'll come." The car stopped outside my building, and I'd never been more aware of the peeling paint, the broken front steps, the graffiti decorating the entrance. Through Luca's eyes, it must have looked like poverty, desperation. It looked like home. "Thank you for the ride," I managed, reaching for the door handle. His hand caught my shoulder, gentle but firm. "One more thing, Bella. You touched my blood tonight. You saw me vulnerable. You know my face." He waited until I met his eyes. "In my world, that means something. It means you're connected to me now. Protected by me. I don't need protection. Everyone needs protection." His thumb brushed my collarbone, the touch feather light. "They just don't always know it yet." I fled the car before I could do something stupid like believe him. Inside my apartment, I locked every lock and leaned against the door, my heart racing. The expensive phone felt heavy in my pocket. Foreign, dangerous. I pulled it out, meaning to throw it away, and found an envelope that had been slipped into the box. Inside was cash, so much cash, and a note in bold, masculine handwriting. "For the supplies you used, Li counted it twice. $5,000 for a bandage and gauze that cost maybe 10. This wasn't payment. This was a promise, a claim." I didn't sleep that night. And when my landlord knocked on my door the next morning, saying someone had paid my rent for the entire year in cash, I stared at the phone on my nightstand and understood exactly what Luca Moretti had meant. I was his now, whether I wanted to be or not. I lasted 3 days before I tried to return the phone. 3 days of clutching it like a talisman every time I walked to class, every time I took the bus, every time I passed through my neighborhood's dangerous blocks. 3 days of telling myself I didn't need Luca Moretti's protection, or his money, or whatever the hell he thought he was offering. 3 days of lying to myself. On the 4th morning, I woke to my roommate Jenna screaming from the parking lot. Sophia, get down here right now." I ran downstairs in my pajamas, barefoot, my heart in my throat, expecting fire or break-in or worse. Instead, I found Jenna standing beside a car that definitely wasn't the rusted Honda I'd been driving since high school. This car was new, sleek, a dark blue sedan with temporary plates and a massive bow on the hood like something from a commercial. "Is this yours?" Jenna demanded, her eyes wide. "Did you win something? What's happening?" I walked around it in a daze. The keys were in my mailbox, my locked mailbox with a note in that same bold handwriting. "Your old car was dangerous. This one has airbags. I'm going to kill him," I whispered. "Kill who?" Jenna grabbed my arm. "Sophia, what's going on? This is like a $30,000 car." I couldn't explain. Couldn't find words for what was happening, how a man I'd met once was systematically dismantling my independence and rebuilding it in his image. The title was in my name. Registration paid for 2 years. Even the insurance was handled. I tried calling the number on the phone he'd given me. It rang once, then went to voicemail. A automated message, nothing personal. I tried again. Same result. Fine. If he wouldn't answer, I'd return everything in person. Except I had no idea where to find him. That evening, I came home from my shift at the diner to find my apartment warm. Actually, genuinely warm for the first time since October started. The building superintendent was leaving my floor as I arrived. "Oh, Miss Chun. Good news. We finally got that heating unit fixed. Should have done it months ago, but you know how it is. Budget issues." I didn't call about the heating. Someone did. Anonymous complaint to the city, actually. Inspector came by, threatened to fine us, so we had to fix it building-wide. He shrugged. "Lucky break for everyone, huh?" Lucky. Right. Inside my apartment, I found groceries. Not sitting outside my door, that would have been too obvious. No, they were inside my locked apartment, neatly arranged in my refrigerator and cabinets. Expensive brands, organic produce. The fancy coffee I'd bought exactly once as a treat, and never again because it cost $12. My hands shook as I checked every lock, every window. Nothing broken, no sign of forced entry. He'd been inside my home. The violation of it warred with something else, the realization that he'd noticed what I liked, what I needed, what I couldn't afford. The groceries weren't random. They were specific, personal, terrifying. I grabbed the phone and typed out a message. "Stop! Whatever this is, stop it now!" 3 dots appeared immediately. He'd been waiting. "Elle, no. You can't just insert yourself into my life like this. Elle, I already have. I don't want your help. Elle, you need it. That's more important. This is insane. Elle, this is care, Sophia. I take care of what's mine. I'm not yours. The phone rang in my hand, his name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. Almost. You became mine the moment you chose to save me instead of running. Luca's voice was smooth. Patient. Like he was explaining something obvious to a child. You put your hands on me. You touched my blood. You saw me vulnerable. In my world, that creates a bond. In my world, that's called being a decent human being. Then our worlds are very different. A pause. Have you eaten today? The subject changed through me. What? Dinner, Sophia. Have you eaten? That's none of your... You haven't. I can hear it in your voice. Rustling on his end, like he was moving. There's salmon in your refrigerator. Asparagus. That pasta you like with the truffle oil. Eat something. Stop this, I whispered, hating how my voice broke. Please, I can't. I don't know how to handle this. Then stop fighting it. His voice softened into something almost gentle. Let me help you. Let me take care of you. What's so terrible about that? You're a criminal. I'm a businessman. You're dangerous. Not to you. Never to you. Absolute certainty. I would burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you. My student loan app pinged on my old phone. I opened it with shaking hands and stared at the screen. My balance, the crushing debt that kept me awake at night, had been cut in half by an anonymous payment. Did you? I couldn't finish the sentence. Your education is important. You're going to be a brilliant nurse, Sophia. You shouldn't have to work 3 jobs to make it happen. I sank onto my threadbare couch, overwhelmed. Why are you doing this? Because I can. Because you deserve it. Because... He stopped, then continued quietly. Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you walked away from my car. Silence stretched between us, heavy with things neither of us was ready to say. Have dinner with me, Luca said finally. 1 meal. Let me explain properly. If you still want me to disappear after, I will. You're lying. Probably. I could hear the smile in his voice. But I'll send a car tomorrow at 7 anyway. Wear something nice. He hung up before I could refuse. That night, I opened my closet to figure out what qualified as nice in my wardrobe of thrift store finds and clearance rack disasters. A dress hung there that hadn't been there this morning. Deep emerald green, designer label, my exact size. The fabric felt like water between my fingers, and the price tag still attached made my stomach drop. The note pinned to the hanger was brief. Wear this. Elle, I should have been furious. Should have called the police, filed a restraining order, done anything except what I actually did. I held the dress against my body and looked in the mirror. And I wondered what Luca Moretti would look like when he saw me wearing it. The car arrived exactly at 7, not Marcus this time, but a different driver who opened my door with practiced deference and didn't speak except to confirm my name. I wore the dress. God help me. I wore it, and it fit like it had been made for my body specifically. It probably had been. The thought should have terrified me more than it did. The restaurant was in a part of the city I'd only seen in magazines, the kind of place that didn't advertise because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. But when we pulled up, the valet parking was empty. The lights were on, but I couldn't see anyone inside. Miss Chun, the driver said, opening my door. Mr. Moretti's waiting. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the restaurant was beautiful exposed brick. Edison bulbs casting warm light over white tablecloths, fresh flowers on every surface. And completely, utterly empty except for one table near the floor, to ceiling windows. Luca stood when he saw me. He wore all black tonight, black shirt, no tie. The stitches above his eyebrow were neat, professional, healing well. But it was the way he looked at me that stole my breath, like I was something rare, something precious, something he'd already decided to keep. Sophia. My name was almost reverent. He crossed the space between us and took my hand, raising it to his lips. The gesture should have felt old-fashioned, but instead it felt like a brand. You're beautiful. You closed an entire restaurant. I wanted privacy. He led me to the table, pulled out my chair, waited until I sat before taking his own seat across from me. And I wanted your full attention without distractions. A waiter appeared from the kitchen, the only other person in the building, apparently, and poured wine that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I didn't agree to come, I said once we were alone again. I came to tell you to stop this. All of it. And yet you wore the dress. Heat crept up my neck. It was the only thing nice enough for a place like this. Liar. But his smile was gentle, not mocking. You wore it because part of you wanted to see my reaction. And I'm not disappointed. I took a long drink of wine for courage. What do you want from me, Luca? Really? Because this, I gestured between us, at the empty restaurant, at everything. This isn't normal. This isn't how people meet and get to know each other. I'm not normal people, Bella. And you already know that. That's not an answer. He leaned back, studying me with those dark, penetrating eyes. You want honesty? Fine. I'll give you 3 questions tonight. Complete, truthful answers. But choose them carefully. My heart raced. 3 questions felt like a trap, and an opportunity all at once. Why me? I asked. You could have anyone. Models, socialites, women who belong in your world. Why a nursing student you met bleeding in a car crash? Because those women see my name before they see me. They calculate what I can give them, what I'm worth, what connections I provide. He leaned forward, intensity rolling off him in waves. But you didn't know who I was when you climbed into that car. You just saw someone hurt and chose to help. You were brave and real and good. And He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. I haven't been around anything truly good in a very long time. The waiter returned with appetizers I hadn't ordered. Probably Luca had pre-selected everything. The food was exquisite, but I barely tasted it. Second question, Luca prompted. I swallowed hard. What exactly do you expect from me? Because you keep saying I'm yours, but I don't understand what that means. It means you're under my protection. No one touches you, threatens you, or hurts you without answering to me. It means I make sure you're safe, fed, comfortable, happy. It means he set down his fork, his full attention on me. It means I'm claiming the right to be the person you call when you're scared, the person who fixes your problems, the person who gets to see you like this, beautiful and real, without the walls you show the rest of the world. That sounds like possession. It is possession. He didn't even flinch from the word. I don't believe in half measures, Sophia. When I want something, I take it completely. But he reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine. I'm not asking you to be something you're not. I'm not demanding anything you're not ready to give. I'm just asking you to stop fighting the inevitable. And what's inevitable? Us. Simple. Absolute. Terrifying. You and me. This. You'll stop running eventually, Bella. You'll accept that being mine isn't a cage, it's freedom. Freedom from worry, from fear, from struggling alone. My third question escaped before I could stop it. What if I can't handle your world? The violence, the danger, the things you do. Something dark crossed his expression. Then I'll shield you from it. You'll never see that side of my life, Sophia. You'll have everything good I can give you and none of the darkness. That's not realistic. Watch me make it real. He stood, walking around the table to crouch beside my chair, his hand cupping my face with devastating gentleness. I know what I am. I know the things I've done, the blood on my hands. But with you, I want to be different. Want to be the man who makes you smile, who keeps you safe, who gives you the life you deserve. Why? I whispered. Because you're the first thing I've wanted more than power in 10 years. And I always get what I want. His thumb traced my lower lip, and I felt that touch everywhere. What do you want from me? I asked one more time, desperate for clarity. Luca's smile was slow, dangerous, promising. Everything, he said simply. But I'm patient, Sophia. You'll give it to me willingly. I came home from my clinical rotation to find my apartment door hanging open, not unlocked. Open. The wood around the lock splintered, the frame damaged like someone had kicked it in. My heart stopped, then started racing so fast I felt dizzy. Hello? My voice was small, stupid. Every horror movie I'd ever seen screamed at me not to go inside. But all my textbooks were in there. My laptop. The few photos I had of my parents before they died. I pushed the door open wider. The destruction was methodical, vicious. My couch cushions slashed open, stuffing everywhere. My tiny kitchen ransacked. Cabinets hanging open, dishes smashed. My bedroom, I couldn't breathe when I saw my bedroom. Mattress destroyed, clothes torn from hangers, everything I owned, scattered and ruined. On my bathroom mirror, written in what I desperately hoped was red paint, "Tell Moretti he doesn't own this city," my knees gave out. I sank onto the deep-recovered floor, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. They'd been inside my home. Touched my things, left a message in my paint. It had to be paint. The phone. Luca's phone. I grabbed it from my purse with trembling hands and called the only number programmed in. He answered on the first ring. Sophia. Just my name, but I heard the immediate alertness in his voice. What's wrong? My apartment. The words came out broken. They broke in. There's a message. About you. Where are you right now? Are you inside? Yes. Get out. Command, sharp and absolute, right now, Sophia. Go to the hallway and wait for me. Don't touch anything else. I'm 8 minutes away. How did you move? I moved. Stumbled into the hallway on legs that barely worked, sliding down the wall to sit on the filthy carpet. Other tenants passed by, avoiding eye contact the way people in this building always did. Mind your business. Survive another day. It was 6 minutes, not 8. I heard them before. I saw them with footsteps. Too many. Too coordinated. Then Luca appeared at the top of the stairs with 5 men in suits, all of them armed, and his face was something I'd never seen before. Not angry. Anger was too small a word for what I saw in his eyes. Fury. Cold, controlled, absolutely lethal fury. He was kneeling in front of me before I could blink, his hands framing my face, checking me for injuries. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? Sophia, look at me. Are you hurt? No, I wasn't here. I just got home and stay with Marcus. He was already standing, already moving toward my destroyed apartment, already becoming someone else, someone dangerous. No one comes near her. If anything moves on these stairs, shoot it. I watched him disappear inside, heard his voice low and venomous on the phone, calling in more men, making promises that sounded like death sentences. Marcus positioned himself between me and the stairwell, his hand resting casually on the gun beneath his jacket. We didn't speak. There was nothing to say. Luca emerged 10 minutes later, his expression carved from ice. He pulled out his phone, took photos of everything. The damage, the message, angles I couldn't understand. Then he came straight to me. Pack a bag, he said, his voice deadly calm. Essentials only. You're not staying here. I can't just leave. You can and you will. He hauled me to my feet, not rough, but absolutely immovable. This was a message for me, Sophia. They used you to get to me. That means you're not safe here anymore. I'll stay with a friend. I'll go to a hotel. You'll come home with me. He was already guiding me back into the apartment, watching as I grabbed my school bag, my laptop, miraculously undamaged, a few clothes that hadn't been destroyed. Where I can protect you. Where this doesn't happen again. Luca, this is crazy. This is necessary. He stopped me with a hand on my shoulder, turning me to face him. And for the first time since arriving, I saw fear beneath the fury. Real, genuine fear. They know about you. They know you matter to me. That makes you a target, Bella, and I will not. His jaw clenched. I will not let anyone hurt you because of me. Who did this? People who made a very fatal mistake. He took my bag from my shaking hands. Marco De Luca. He's been pushing into my territory for months. This is him testing boundaries, seeing if he can scare me by threatening what's mine. I'm not. Yes, you are. He cupped my face with one hand, and despite everything, his touch was infinitely gentle. I tried to do this your way. Tried to give you space, time to adjust, let you keep your independence. But that's over now. You're coming home with me where I can keep you safe, where I never have to see that terror in your eyes again. I wanted to argue, wanted to insist I could handle this myself, that I didn't need a criminal's protection, that accepting meant surrendering the last of my independence. But my hands wouldn't stop shaking. And Luca was right. They destroyed my home because of him, because I'd chosen to save him that night, because I'd gotten tangled in his world whether I wanted to be or not. Okay, I whispered. Okay. Relief flooded his features. He pressed his forehead to mine, just breathing for a moment. I've got you, I promise, Sophia. No one will ever touch you again. He carried my bag himself, kept me tucked against his side as we descended the stairs. The convoy of black SUVs waited outside, an entire fleet, armed men positioned at every corner. This wasn't just protection. This was a declaration of war. Lucas settled me in the back seat of the center vehicle, slid in beside me, and the caravan moved as one unit through the city streets. I watched my neighborhood disappear through tinted windows, watched the buildings get taller and cleaner and more expensive. Where are we going? I asked. Home, Lucas said simply. And when we pulled up to a high-rise that touched the clouds, with guards at every entrance and cameras covering every angle, I understood what that meant. His home, his fortress, his cage made of bulletproof glass and devoted men. And somehow I'd never felt safer in my life. Living with Luca Moretti was nothing like I'd expected. The penthouse was massive floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of the entire city, multiple bedrooms, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a restaurant. He'd given me my own space, a guest suite larger than my entire apartment, with a bathroom that had heated floors and a shower with 6 different settings. But it was the routine that disoriented me most. Every morning Luca was gone before I woke off, handling business he never detailed. I'd find coffee already made, breakfast prepared by someone I never saw, and a note in his handwriting. Simple things. Have a good day at clinicals. Ella Marcus will drive you to class. Don't argue. I always argued. He never listened. Every evening he returned exactly at 7. We'd have dinner together at the massive dining table, just the two of us, and he'd ask about my day. Really ask about my patients, my classes, the difficult intubation I'd practiced, the professor who still intimidated me. He listened like my words were scripture, remembered every detail, asked follow-up questions the next night, but he never touched me. Not beyond a hand at the small of my back guiding me to my chair. Not beyond his fingers brushing mine when he handed me wine. Not beyond that careful, controlled distance that was somehow more intense than physical contact would have been. His eyes, though, his eyes followed me everywhere. Hungry, possessive, wanting. I felt their weight when I curled up in the library with my textbooks, when I made tea in the kitchen at midnight, when I emerged from my room in the mornings, still half asleep. He watched me like I was something precious. He was terrified to break. 2 weeks into this strange domestic arrangement, I found him on the balcony at midnight. I'd been restless, unable to sleep despite the luxury mattress and Egyptian cotton sheets. The penthouse was quiet, the guards stationed discreetly out of sight, the city glittering below like scattered diamonds. Lucas stood at the railing, his shirt half unbuttoned, sleeves rolled to his elbows, a glass of amber liquid in his hand. The light from inside caught the sharp planes of his face. The scar I'd given him now healed to a thin white line. He looked almost human like this, almost vulnerable. "Can't sleep?" he asked without turning around. "How did you know I was here?" "I always know where you are, Bella." He took a slow drink. "It's my job to know. I should have found that creepy. Instead, I found it comforting." I joined him at the railing, keeping a careful foot of distance between us. "You never ask me how my days really go," I said quietly. "You ask about school, about patients, but never about your work, because my work isn't fit for your ears." His knuckles were bruised, I noticed. Fresh from today. You don't need that darkness, but it's part of who you are, the worst part. He finally looked at me, and the pain in his eyes stole my breath. You're good, Sophia. Genuinely, fundamentally good. You help people, save lives, see someone suffering, and move toward them instead of away. And one, he laughed bitterly. I hurt people, end lives. See someone threatening what's mine and destroy them without hesitation. Then why do you want me here? The question hung between us like a confession waiting to be born. Because I've been watching you for months, Luca said finally, his voice raw, long before the accident. I first saw you 3 months ago, outside your diner. There was a homeless man, drunk, probably high, definitely sick. Everyone walked past him, crossed the street to avoid him. But you. His hand tightened on his glass. You brought him food, gave him your jacket, sat with him until an ambulance came. You were 20 minutes late to class because you waited to make sure he'd be okay. My throat closed. How did you— I noticed things, Bella. I noticed people. And you were the first truly good thing I'd seen in years. I couldn't stop thinking about you after that. Started finding excuses to drive past your diner, to see if that goodness was real or just a moment. That's obsessive, disturbing, wrong. He set down his glass and turned to face me fully. I know, but then that car crashed, and you ran toward danger instead of away from it. You put your hands on me knowing I was bleeding, vulnerable, possibly dying. You chose to help me. And in that moment I knew. His voice cracked. I knew I'd never let you go. I reached out before I could think better of it, my fingers tracing the scar above his eyebrow, the mark I'd left on him. You're not as bad as you think, I whispered. His hand caught my wrist, not hard, never hard with me, and his eyes closed like my touch caused him physical pain. Yes, I am, he said quietly. But for you, Sophia, for you, I'll try to be better. When he opened his eyes again, I saw everything he'd been holding back. The want, the need, the desperate hunger tempered by iron control. Why don't you touch me? The question escaped before I could stop it. You watch me like you're starving, but you never, because once I start, I won't stop. His thumb pressed against my racing pulse. Once I kiss you, touch you, make you mine in every way, there's no going back. I'm trying to give you time, Bella. Time to realize what being with me really means. Time to run if you're going to. What if I don't want to run? His control cracked just slightly. I saw it in the way his grip tightened, the way his breath caught, the way his eyes dropped to my mouth with naked hunger. Then God help us both, he whispered, because I'll never let you go. 3 more weeks passed in careful routine, Luca providing everything, me slowly accepting this strange new reality where danger and safety were the same person. But the tension was killing me. Every dinner, his eyes traced my mouth when I spoke. Every morning, I'd find him already awake, watching me emerge from my room like he'd been waiting hours for just that glimpse. Every accidental touch, reaching for the same wine bottle, passing in the hallway, left electricity in its wake. He was holding himself back. I could see the effort it cost him in the rigid set of his shoulders, the careful distance he maintained, the way his hands would clench when I got too close. I was tired of careful. On a Friday night, after another polite dinner where we talked about everything except what we both wanted, I found him in his study. He was at his desk, shirt sleeves rolled up, reading something on his laptop that made his expression dark. Luca. His head snapped up, and I watched hunger flash across his face before control slammed back into place. Sophia, do you need something? Is everything— Why haven't you kissed me? The question detonated like a grenade in the quiet room. He went absolutely still, his hands flattening on the desk. What? You heard me. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. My heart raced, but I'd committed now. It's been 5 weeks. 5 weeks of you watching me like I'm something you're dying to touch. 5 weeks of this distance that feels more intimate than actual contact. Why haven't you kissed me, Sophia? My name was a warning. Go to bed. No, I moved closer to his desk. I want an answer. You say I'm yours. You've rearranged my entire life. You won't let me leave without guards. But you won't touch me. Why? He stood slowly, and I watched the careful control he always maintained begin to fracture. Because I'm trying to be good. Trying to give you time to understand what you're getting into before. Before what? I challenged. Before I realize you're dangerous. I already know that. Before I understand you're possessive. I figured that out the first night. Before I see you're not the white knight in this story. I laughed without humor. Luca, I've never thought you were a hero. But I'm still here. You don't understand what you're asking for. Then explain it to me. I was right in front of his desk now, close enough to see his pupils dilate. Make me understand why you look at me like that, but never. He moved so fast I barely saw it. One moment he was behind his desk, the next he was in front of me, his hand cupping the back of my neck, his body crowding mine against the bookshelf. You want to know why? His voice was rough, raw, stripped of all pretense. Because once I start, I won't stop. Once I kiss you, touch you, make you mine in every way that matters, there's no going back. No more pretending this is temporary. No more illusion of choice. Who says I want a choice? His control shattered. The kiss was devastating, possessive, desperate, claiming. His mouth took mine like he was drowning, and I was air, like he'd been starving for weeks and finally got permission to feast. His other hand gripped my hip, pulling me flush against him, and I felt the tremor in his fingers despite the dominance of his kiss. I kissed him back just as desperately, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer, wanting more. This was what I'd been craving, not the careful distance, not the polite routine, but this. Raw, real, uncontrolled. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His forehead rested against mine, his hands still holding me like he was afraid I'd disappear. You're mine, Sophia. It wasn't a question. Say it. Say you're mine. I looked into those dark eyes that had haunted me for weeks, at the face of the man who'd claimed me before he ever kissed me, who'd protected me, cared for me, wanted me with an intensity that should have terrified me. It did terrify me, but not enough to lie. I'm yours, I whispered. Something fierce and triumphant blazed in his eyes. He kissed me again, slower this time, but no less possessive, his mouth mapping mine like he was memorizing every gasp, every sigh, every shiver. Say it again, he demanded against my lips. I'm yours, Luca. His hands tightened on me and I felt the last of his restraint crumble. My room. Now. Luca, I've been patient. I've been good. I've given you time. He lifted me effortlessly, my legs wrapping around his waist on instinct. But you just gave yourself to me, Bella, and I'm keeping you. He carried me out of the study, down the hallway, past the guest suite I'd been sleeping in, straight to the master bedroom I'd never entered. This was it. The point of no return. The moment where everything changed. Last chance, Luca said, setting me on my feet beside his massive bed. Walk away now and I'll let you go. Stay, and you're mine. Completely. Forever. I reached up and kissed him, pouring every answer into the touch. I'm not going anywhere, I whispered against his mouth. His smile was dark, possessive, absolutely devastating. Good, he said, and showed me exactly what being his really meant. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows, and Luca's arm heavy across my waist. His body curved protectively around mine, even in sleep. Everything had changed last night. I felt it in my bones, the shift from resisting to surrendering, from fighting to accepting. I was his now. Completely. And the terrifying part was how right it felt. His phone shattered the morning quiet, buzzing insistently on the nightstand. Luca stirred, his lips brushing my shoulder before he reached for it. What? Not a question? A command? I couldn't hear the other side, but I watched his entire body go rigid. The arm around me tightened possessively. When? Pause. Set it up. Neutral territory. I want 3 of our men for every one of his. Another pause. Longer this time. His jaw clenched. Fine. Noon. Giordano's. And Marcus stays with Sophia every second I'm gone. He hung up and pulled me closer, his face buried in my hair like he was breathing me in. "What's wrong?" I asked softly. "Marco De Luca wants a meeting. Today." The name sent ice through my veins. "The one who—" "Yes." His hand stroked down my spine, soothing himself as much as me. "The one who destroyed your apartment. He's been pushing into my territory for months. This is him demanding I back down or face consequences. You're not going to back down." "No. Simple. Absolute. But I need to handle this carefully. He's got alliances I don't. Connections that could make this messy." I turned in his arms to face him. "Take me with you." "Absolutely not." "Luca, no, Sophia." His eyes were hard, unyielding. "You're staying here where you're safe. Where Marco can't use you against me. I'm already being used against you. Hiding me only makes me a permanent weakness." I pushed up on one elbow. "If I'm there, if they see I'm not afraid, if I'm standing beside you, it shows strength. Unity. It puts you in danger. I'm already in danger." I cupped his face, forcing him to meet my eyes. "You said I'm yours. That means we face things together, doesn't it?" The internal war played across his features, the desire to keep me locked away and safe versus the understanding that I was right. That hiding me made me a target, not a partner. "You stay beside me the entire time," he said finally. "You don't speak unless spoken to. You don't engage. And if anything goes wrong, anything Marcus gets you out. Understood?" "Understood." Giordano's was an old Italian restaurant in neutral territory, family-owned. Respected, the kind of place where business was conducted under the guise of civilized dining. But the tension when we arrived was anything but civilized. Marco De Luca sat at a corner table with 4 men, all of them watching us enter with calculating eyes. He was older than Luca, maybe mid-40s, with silver at his temples and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Moretti," he said, not standing. "And you brought a guest. How domestic." Luca's hand at my back tightened fractionally, but his expression remained neutral. "De Luca, you wanted to talk." Talk. We sat, Luca positioning himself between me and Marco. The message was clear. "You go through me to get to her." "I hear you've been expanding into the docks," Marco said pleasantly. "Territory that's been De Luca family territory for 3 generations. Territory you've been neglecting," Luca countered. "I simply filled a void by undercutting my prices and threatening my contacts." Marco's eyes slid to me, assessing. "And I hear you've developed a distraction. Some little nurse-playing house with the big bad wolf." I felt Luca's muscles coil like a spring ready to snap. "Careful," Luca said softly, and the threat in his voice made even Marco's men shift uncomfortably. "I'm just saying," Marco continued, leaning back with false casualness. "Maybe your priorities have shifted. Maybe you're not as focused as you used to be. Maybe," his smile turned cruel, "maybe Moretti's whore would be safer on the winning side." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I felt Luca move, felt the violence about to erupt. I stood first. All eyes snapped to me. "Mr. De Luca," I said, my voice calm and clear despite my racing heart. "I appreciate your concern for my safety, but I think you're confused about something." I smiled, and I made sure it was ice. "I'm not a distraction. I'm not a weakness. I'm the woman Luca Moretti chose to protect with everything he has. Which means any threat to me is a declaration of war against a man who's never lost one." I let that sink in, watching Marco's expression shift from amused to uncertain. "So if you're trying to intimidate me into leaving him, you've failed. If you're trying to use me as leverage, you've miscalculated. And if you truly think I'm his weakness," I leaned forward slightly, "then you don't understand what it means when a man like him finally finds something worth fighting for." Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Then I sat down, my hand finding Luca's under the table, and squeezed once. Marco's face had gone red. His men looked uncomfortable. And Luca, when I glanced at him, the expression in his eyes was pure stunned admiration mixed with barely controlled fury. "Meeting's over," Luca said, standing and pulling me with him. Touch her, threaten her, or even look at her wrong again. DeLuca and I'll erase your entire family from this city's memory. We walked out in tense silence. Marcus and the guards forming a protective barrier. I didn't breathe normally until we were in the car, doors closed, pulling away from the restaurant. Then Luca grabbed me, pulled me into his lap, and kissed me with bruising intensity. You're insane, he breathed against my mouth. Brilliant. Terrifying. Mine. I told you I could handle. Marry me. I froze. What? Marry me. His hands framed my face, and I'd never seen him look more serious. Not next year. Not eventually. Now. Soon. Be my wife before anyone else dares to think they can take you from me. That's insane. We're back at the penthouse, the adrenaline from the meeting slowly draining away, leaving reality in its wake. Luca paced the living room like a caged predator while I sat on the couch, trying to process what he'd just asked. Why is it insane? He stopped, turning those intense dark eyes on me. You're already living here. You're already mine. Marriage just makes it official. Marriage is, I struggled for words. It's permanent, Luca. It's a promise that you can't take back. And we've known each other for 2 months. I knew you were mine the first night. He crossed to me, kneeling so we were eye level. The rest was just you catching up. That's not how normal people. I'm not normal people. Neither is my world. His hands found mine, thumbs stroking my knuckles. Marco won't be the last to try to use you against me, Sophia. But if you're my wife, something fierce burned in his eyes. If you're wearing my ring, bearing my name, standing beside me as Mrs. Moretti, it sends a message. You're not a weakness to exploit. A family. Untouchable. So this is strategic. This is protection. He brought my hands to his lips. This is me claiming you so thoroughly that even thinking about threatening you becomes suicide. I pulled my hands free, standing and moving to the window. The city sprawled below, glittering and dangerous and full of secrets. I need time, I said quietly. I need to think about this without you looking at me like that. Like what? Like I'm already yours, and we're just going through the motions. Silence. Then I heard him move, felt him behind me, his warmth a contrast to the cool glass. You are already mine, he said softly, but I'll give you time, on one condition. What? Meet my grandmother first, before you decide. Lucia Moretti lived in a brownstone in the old neighborhood, the kind of place where elderly women sat on stoops watching everything, where family was religion and loyalty was law. She was small, barely 5 feet, with snow-white hair and eyes exactly like Luca's, dark, penetrating, missing nothing. She took one look at me and smiled. So you're the girl who's got my grandson walking around like a lovesick fool, she said in accented English. Come, sit, we talk. Luca moved to follow, but she waved him off. Not you. This is woman talk. Go bother Marcus. I'd never seen Luca obey anyone so quickly. Alone with her in a kitchen that smelled like fresh bread and marinara, Lucia poured espresso and studied me like I was a puzzle to solve. He wants to marry you, she said. Not a question. Yes. And you're afraid. I barely know him. His world is dangerous, violent, full of men who solve problems with blood. She sipped her espresso. I know. I've lived in this world 70 years, buried a husband and 2 sons to it. Watched good men become monsters, and monsters pretend to be good. My throat tightened. Then you understand why I'm hesitating. I understand why you're smart. She set down her cup. But I also see something you don't see yet. You see my Luca cold, controlled, dangerous. You see the man who kills without hesitation, who rules through fear, who takes what he wants. Yes, I see the boy who cried for 3 days when his father died, who visited me every Sunday for 10 years, even when he was building his empire, who's been dead behind the eyes since he took over the family. She leaned forward. Until you brought him back to life, girl. You made him human again. Tears burned my eyes. What if I can't live with the darkness? What if I break trying to be part of his world? Then you leave. But her weathered hand covered mine. If you can stand in the fire and not burn, if you can love him despite what he is, maybe you can keep the light alive in him. Maybe you can save what's left of his soul. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You stood up to Marco de Luca. She smiled. Luca told me. You're stronger than you think. I sat with her for another hour, listening to stories about Luca as a boy, about the family, about what it meant to be a Moretti wife. She didn't sugarcoat the danger or the sacrifice. But she also didn't hide the fierce loyalty, the protection, the love that came with it. When Luca drove me back to the penthouse, I was quiet, processing. What did she tell you? He asked as we rode the elevator up. The truth. I looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd claimed me from the first moment. About what your world costs, about what it gives. The elevator doors opened. We stepped into the penthouse, and his voice was carefully neutral, but I saw tension in every line of his body. And I have conditions. Hope flickered in his eyes. Name them. I want a real marriage. Not just protection. Partnership. You don't make decisions about my life without talking to me first. You don't shut me out of your world. I want to know what you're facing. What threatens us? Sophia, I'm not finished. I stepped closer. I'm going back to finish my nursing degree. I'm going to work when I graduate. You don't get to lock me away like a treasure. I'm your wife, not your possession. You're both, he said, but his smile was genuine. I can live with those terms. Anything else? Yes. I took a breath. I love you. And you love me. That's what this is really about. Not strategy or protection or sending messages. We're getting married because we choose each other. Every day. In every way. I do love you, Luca said, his voice raw with honesty. More than I thought I was capable of loving anything. Then yes, I whispered. I'll marry you. He kissed me like I was air, and he'd been suffocating, like I was salvation, and he was drowning. When he broke away, he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. I've been carrying this for 3 weeks, he admitted, opening it. The ring inside was stunning, an emerald surrounded by diamonds, old-world craftsmanship, obviously an heirloom. My grandmother's, he said, sliding it onto my finger. She gave it to me after you left her house. Said you'd earned it. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Mrs. Moretti, Luca said, testing the name. How does that sound? Terrifying, I admitted, and perfect. The garden was perfect. White roses everywhere, their scent heavy in the warm afternoon air. String lights already hung for the evening reception, waiting to glow like captured stars. A simple altar beneath an arbor wound with ivy and more roses. It had been 3 weeks since I said yes. 3 weeks of planning a wedding that was deliberately small, intimate, safe. Only people Luca trusted absolutely. Only people who understood what this union meant. I stood in the bedroom, staring at myself in the mirror. The dress was simple, elegance, ivory silk that flowed like water, off-shoulder sleeves, my mother's pearls at my throat, my hair loose the way Luca liked it. A knock at the door. Marcus, uncomfortable in his formal suit. It's time, Miss Chun. He paused. Mrs. Moretti. My heart squeezed. That was my name now, or would be in 10 minutes. The walk to the garden felt both too long and too short. My brother held my arm. He'd flown in yesterday, still processing that his struggling sister was marrying into the Moretti family. Still uncertain if he should be happy or terrified. You're sure? He whispered as we approached the garden entrance. I'm sure. Then we turned the corner, and I saw Luca. He stood at the altar in a black suit that fit like sin, his hands clasped in front of him, his dark eyes locked on me with such intensity I felt it like a physical touch. Marcus stood beside him as best man. Lucia sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. There were maybe 20 people total, guards stationed at every entrance. safety and celebration intertwined. My brother released my arm, and Luca took my hand, his grip warm and steady. "You're beautiful," he murmured. "Perfetta." The priest, probably paid handsomely to overlook exactly who he was marrying, began the ceremony. Traditional words about love and commitment, about joining two lives into one. But when we reached the vows, Luca had his own. "I'm not a good man, Sophia," he said, his voice carrying across the quiet garden. "I've done things that should damn me. I'll probably do more. But you," his thumb stroked my knuckles, "you saw me bleeding and chose to help instead of run. You looked at what I am and stayed anyway. You stood beside me when it was dangerous and loved me when I didn't deserve it." His eyes never left mine. "So I promise you this. I'll kill for you. Die for you. Build you a life where you never have to be afraid. I'll be the darkness so you can stay in the light. I'll protect you, provide for you, and love you with everything I am for the rest of our lives. You're mine, Sophia, and I'm yours. Forever." Tears streamed down my face as I spoke my own vows. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for your world, Luca. I don't know if I'll always understand the choices you have to make. But I know this." I squeezed his hands. "I choose you. Every day in every way I choose you. I choose this life, this love, this danger and safety, all wrapped up in one impossible man. You're mine as much as I'm yours. And I'll stand beside you through whatever comes." The priest pronounced us husband and wife. Luca kissed me like it was a vow in its self-possessive, tender, absolutely certain. His hands framed my face, and I felt the promise in that touch. Protection, devotion, love. "Mrs. Moretti," he whispered against my lips. Finally. 6 months later, I adjusted my scrubs and grabbed my badge. Sophia Moretti, RN, Community Health Clinic. The clinic Luca had funded in the neighborhood where I'd once struggled, now helping people who reminded me of who I'd been. The penthouse was quiet when I got home, but I found Luca in his study, working through paperwork that probably involved things I was better off not knowing in detail. He looked up when I entered, and his face transformed, the cold businessman replaced by the man who loved me. "How was your day?" he asked, pulling me into his lap. "Exhausting. Rewarding. I helped a family get connected to housing services." I pressed a kiss to his jaw. "How was yours?" "Necessary." That was all he'd say, and I'd learnt to accept that some parts of his world would remain shadowed. But better now that you're home. Home. This penthouse fortress with its guards and cameras and bulletproof windows. This unconventional life where I worked as a nurse by day and came home to a man who'd kill anyone who threatened me. It shouldn't work. By every rational measure, we shouldn't work. But we did. Do you regret it?" Luca asked suddenly, his arms tightening around me. "Marrying me? Choosing this life?" I thought about that rainy night 2 months before our wedding, when I'd helped a bleeding stranger and changed my entire future. I thought about every moment since, the fear and the safety, the danger and the love. The man who'd said I was his before he ever kissed me, and then spent every day since proving it. "Not for a single second," I said honestly. "You told me I was yours that first night, and every day since I've proven you right." His smile was brilliant, transforming, absolutely devastating. "My Sophia," he murmured, pressing his lips to my temple. "My wife, my life, my Luca," I whispered back. "My husband, my choice." And in that moment, in his arms, in this life we'd built from blood and bandages and impossible love, I'd never felt more certain of anything. I married the mafia boss who said I was his before he ever kissed me, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.